He's one of our favorites, former NFL scout. He's Daniel Jeremiah, works for the NFL Network as an analyst, back on the program. All of a sudden, we start talking about Christian McCaffrey and his footwork and the comparison to an NFL running back, and it was LeSean McCoy. And Daniel Jeremiah has been all over this. Do you really see that as the comparison? I know David Shaw, the Stanford head coach, says he sees McCaffrey in that light. Do you?
Yeah. You know, the funny thing, Dan, is me and Coach Shaw worked together in Baltimore for 4 years, and then we do the NFL Network draft coverage together. And I can't tell you the number of times where we end up having the same comparison because we kind of came up with the same school of evaluating from Ozzie Newsome there, just in terms of how we see players and what we think of players. And having spent 2 years with the Eagles around Shady McCoy every day, I saw some of that in Christian McCaffrey. Now, the difference is that Shady's a little smoother in the way he does it, but they're comparable in the sense that they have that spidey sense to be able to feel, oncoming tacklers from the side and not necessarily have to even see them. You could feel them, and then just an uncanny ability to make people miss.
Who's hot right now?
Hassan Reddick from Temple is somebody that I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up sneaking into the top 10, which I think will shock some people. He's definitely getting a lot of buzz. And then you start talking about, Marlon Humphrey seems like he's making a late surge. I mean, from what people are saying, Dan, but I mean, I don't know if what I'm getting at this point in time is 90% true or 2% true with what you're hearing from folks.
Do you care that Jabrill Peppers had a diluted drug test?
It's not a huge issue to me. It's funny how these drug tests work. The better player you are and the higher you think of the player, that kind of has a little bit to do with your forgiveness level. So to me, he was kind of a borderline first-round guy, and I think this is probably enough to bump him out of the first round. But then we see the same thing with Reuben Foster. And I know, some people expect Reuben Foster to drop out of the first round. He's too good of a player. If he drops out of the first round, I'll admit I was wrong, but I'll be shocked.
But how did the drug test? Why now? Why is this coming out about Jabrill Peppers?
I don't know. Just it gets sent to the teams really late. I don't know the process it goes through where they send samples and all that kind of stuff, but it seems like, when I was with teams, we always got this information around this time. I don't think this is something that people have known about for a long time and just sat on it to release it now. I literally think the teams are just kind of getting this information.
I don't like the Wonderlic shaming that goes on. I know the numbers are going to get out, in particular with the quarterback. I mean, that's the only position I really care about, somebody's Wonderlic test scores. But is there a way to make it private, or do you see a point where the players just say, look, it's not going to benefit me? I know it's helped some players who have gotten, high numbers here,
yeah,
but it feels like, it's there to hurt you, maybe not help you.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I'll just tell you my own personal experience there. When you're on the road scouting at pro days, for guys that don't go to the combine, you have to bring Wonderlic scores. So I got a stack of them in my backpack, and so you got to give them to the guys that haven't taken them yet. So I came home from a trip, and my wife was there. I said, hey, what we should do? Let's both take the Wonderlic test. So I gave it to my wife, and I think she got like in the mid to high 30s, and she said, okay, your turn. I said, there's no way I'm taking that thing. I've spent most of our marriage thinking you're smarter than me. I'm not going to take this test and prove it.
Well, does it bother you that Deshaun Kaiser got a 20? Or Deshaun Watson?
No. Yeah, Deshaun Watson, yeah. No, I mean, I think I've always kind of, I won't out who they are, but some of the best players I've been associated with and the teams I've worked with, which are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers, did not ace that test. So it doesn't really worry me. To me, it's like when you get into the single digits, okay, maybe you throw up the red flag there. But a 20, I don't have any problem with that.
What about Deshaun Kaiser's comments that he has the mind of Tom Brady and the body of Cam Newton? Would that help or hurt his draft status?
I think it's neutral. I just know, for me, I'd rather have a quarterback that's a little too cocky and too confident than the other way. So you're around all these guys, Dan. The best guys at the top level of this game, they're not lacking in confidence. So I don't have a problem with that.
Also, by the way, we're talking to Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network analyst, former NFL scout. I wouldn't tell the truth to any reporter. I don't care who it is. Unless it benefited me to somehow deceive somebody, I don't know what the Niners are going to do. The Browns are still in a state of confusion. I go back to Jacksonville taking Blake Bortles. They surprised everybody. Do you believe?
Yeah.
I mean, how much do you believe that's out there when somebody says, you know what, the Browns are divided on Garrett and Trubisky here, or Jacksonville could take Deshaun Watson, or somebody's falling, somebody's rising? Why would you tell the truth?
You know how I'll give you an example of the stuff that I've got over the years, and I remember going on your show after the Blake Bortles thing. Remember I told you I talked to David Caldwell the day before, and we went through the 10 possible guys that could pick, and then I asked him about Blake Bortles, and he said he had to go. He had someone on the other line, which he didn't. So that's that story. But the way that I've gotten some information that I've gotten that's been accurate over the years, here's how it happened, because I get what you're saying. Why would they say anything? What happens is you get the guy that, say, is the director of college scouting that has this favorite player in the draft and who he thinks they're going to pick all the way up into the end. And then at the end, the GM and the coach get together and decide they're taking somebody else. So that guy, in a bit of frustration, calls a buddy who I might be that buddy, and I cannot believe we're going to freaking pass on this guy. What are we doing? It's like he's venting his frustration, and I'm going, thank God I got something to write and talk about.
All right. We're not going to talk to you until after the draft. The first quarterback taken is going to be
one of two people, Dan. It's going to be Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, come on.
Or Mitchell Trubisky.
So someone named Mitch.
I don't know
or
what
Mitchell.
he goes by these days, Dan. I don't know what he goes by, but I think he'll be the first quarterback.
Okay. The first running back taken.
I still think it'll be Fournette. I wouldn't be totally shocked if it was McCaffrey. The only way it's McCaffrey is if Jacksonville passes on Fournette, and then Carolina ends up having McCaffrey over Fournette. So that's one scenario where McCaffrey could go first. But I keep putting Fournette to Jacksonville. I just think it makes too much sense.
Who's a better running back in the NFL?
Totally different. I mean, Fournette to me, it depends on how you want to judge it. I think in terms of who's running the football the best, Fournette. And then I think McCaffrey will have more, all-purpose and catching the ball and all that stuff. The thing that I don't think people give Fournette credit about in what some teams are thinking is they say, he doesn't help us in the passing game. Well, when they have to play a safety down in the box, I'll tell you what, Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson will sure appreciate him.
Well, yeah, it's strange, though, that you get these labels like Garrett, it takes plays off, that he's lazy at times. We've already heard some critiques about that. Fournette, does he really love the game? Are these common knowledge things, with these NFL teams, with these kids?
Yeah, I haven't talked. Honestly, I haven't talked to one personnel guy that has an issue with Myles Garrett and his effort. I mean, just when you watch him and look at it, I mean, they're on the field 100 snaps a game, and I mean, I don't know if you've been to College Station, but 100 snaps a game when you're constantly seeing double and triple teams, you're not going to go 100 miles an hour. I can remember when I was in Baltimore when Haloti Ngata was coming out. We had a big argument in the room about Ngata because some people thought he didn't play hard all the time. Guys, he's 350 pounds. They have him covering punts, and he's on the field for 75, 80 snaps a game. Like, it's physically impossible to go 100 miles an hour every time.
Have fun on Thursday. We'll check in with you after the draft, Daniel. Always great.
Thanks, Dan.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.